Iran has opened a new front in its confrontation with the United States, striking at one of Washington's most critical military footholds in the Gulf, and raising the stakes in an already volatile conflict, just hours after the US launched strikes on Iran for the third consecutive night. Iranian media claimed the US Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters and the Juffair military base in Bahrain came under attack. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed responsibility for missile and drone strikes targeting weapons storage facilities, a satellite communications center, and a residential building housing US forces in Bahrain. Not a remote outpost, not a forward operating base. The site Iran says it targeted is the very nerve center of American naval power in the Middle East. The guards went further, claiming the attacks destroyed a Patriot radar, an air control radar, a CRAM early warning system, and the command center for unmanned surface vessels. These claims have not been independently verified, and so far no damage assessments confirm them. But what is confirmed is the alarm that hit Bahrain on the ground. As Iran claimed missiles and drones were heading toward Bahrain, the kingdom's interior ministry issued an urgent public alert. Air raid sirens sounded across the country 3 times, with authorities ordering residents to take immediate shelter until further notice, and repeatedly urging the public to stay under cover. The IRGC said the barrage was part of the second phase of its retaliatory campaign, codenamed Naser 2, and said the operation is still underway, warning that further attacks could follow. Bahrain hosts the 5th Fleet, one of Washington's most strategically important commands anywhere in the world. If confirmed, a successful strike on that base would mark a dramatic escalation, and a message that in this war, Iran wants every American site in the Gulf to feel within reach. And what triggered this round? Hours earlier, President Donald Trump announced that Washington was reinstating a blockade on vessels linked to Iran. And Trump briefly floated a 20% fee for safe passage through Hormuz before later backing away under pressure. Think about what that means. For decades, Washington's position was that Hormuz must remain open to international shipping, free of charge, free of interference. For a moment, Washington appeared ready to abandon that principle itself. The world's most important oil corridor, bordered by Iran and Oman, was briefly floated as a toll gate, with the proposed fee coming not from the countries that border it, but from a power operating thousands of miles from its own shores. Tehran's answer was blunt. Iran's top joint military command declared that Washington has no role in determining the future of the Strait of Hormuz and will not be allowed to control it. Then, the violence moved back onto the water. The UAE said Iranian missiles targeted oil tankers transiting the waterway, while Tehran framed its maritime actions as retaliation for US attacks. According to the UAE Ministry of Defense, Iranian cruise missiles struck 2 Emirati tankers, the Mombasa and the Al-Bahia, in the southern shipping lane while they sailed through Omani territorial waters. 1 Indian crew member aboard the Mombasa was killed. 8 others were injured, 4 of them seriously, 6 Indians and 2 Ukrainians among the wounded. Fires broke out on both vessels before being brought under control. The UAE, a close partner of Washington and a state with open ties to Israel, condemned what it called a blatant attack and warned it retains the full right to respond. Separately, the UK Maritime Trade Operations Agency reported a 3rd tanker struck by an unknown projectile about 40 nautical miles northeast of Oman's Kalhat, hit in the starboard engine room, with all crew reported safe. The IRGC claimed it struck 2 offending supertankers that ignored repeated warnings while attempting to transit a mined route with their navigation systems switched off, and accused the United States of inciting vessels onto an illegal path, warning that cooperation with the aggressor would bring only more destruction, a delayed reopening of Hormuz, and a global energy crisis. Iran, meanwhile, faced what CENTCOM described as another major round of American strikes. U.S. Central Command said it hit targets around Abu Musa, Bandar Abbas, Bushehr, Chabahar, Jask, and Konarak, describing them as coastal defense systems, missile and drone sites, and maritime capabilities. Iranian media reported blasts in the key port city of Bandar Abbas, on Kish Island, Keshem Island, and Abu Musa in the Persian Gulf, along with explosions near the city of Jam in Bushehr province. In the southwest, Khuzestan province was struck by U.S. projectiles early Tuesday, wounding 4 people as rescue operations continued. Iran acknowledged the strikes had occurred, but gave no immediate details on casualties or the extent of the damage. Read that map again. If the full list holds, 6 coastal locations were hit in a single night. It looks less like warning shots and more like a campaign against Iran's southern military coastline. CENTCOM laid out how the renewed blockade will work, and the details are striking. U.S. forces will enforce it against vessels traveling to or from Iranian ports, while allowing ships that comply with the restrictions to pass. The command said an earlier blockade, from April 13th to June 18th, saw U.S. forces redirect more than 140 compliant vessels, disable 9 non-compliant ships, and let over 50 humanitarian vessels through. All mariners in the Gulf of Oman were advised to monitor notices and establish contact with U.S. naval forces on bridge-to-bridge Channel 16. Pause on that. Ships moving near one of the world's busiest waterways are being pushed to coordinate with American naval forces, while the fee idea was floated, then walked back. When Trump floated the fee, his answer was unusually candid. "I want to be reimbursed," he said, "because we are protecting a very rich portion of the world," naming Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and Kuwait as the countries that would pay. Trump claimed Iran no longer had a functioning navy, that its ships were underwater, its attack planes and radars gone, its leadership dead, and its inflation above 300%. He also insisted a diplomatic breakthrough remains possible, even as he warned that the next target could be Pickaxe Mountain, a deeply buried site near Natanz that Western analysts and officials have watched closely. And buried beneath the headlines came a detail that may matter more than any single strike. The White House notified Congress that military operations had resumed, effectively starting the administration's argument for a new war powers clock. In practical terms, critics say that means 60 more days of open-ended war, authorized by no vote and debated by no chamber. In Tehran's telling, this is precisely the pattern it has described all along: a deal reached, a deal broken, and force applied without restraint or oversight. Iran's Revolutionary Guards have already answered, announcing fresh attacks targeting Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, and Oman, and raising fears that the confrontation is spilling into a full regional conflict. Step back, and the shape of this moment is unmistakable. Bahrain has spent nights under Sirens because it hosts a fleet. The UAE has watched a crewman die on one of its tankers and seen 2 of them set ablaze. Jordan, Kuwait, and Oman have all been pulled onto the target map, and the nations of the Gulf, whose waters these are, have just watched a foreign power briefly try to charge the world for passage past their own coastlines while their skies fill with other people's missiles. Iran's claims about destroyed radars remain unverified, and they should be treated with care. But the larger reality needs no verification at all. Washington has helped turn the Gulf into a battlefield and briefly tried to turn Hormuz into a revenue stream. And every ally that hosts American power is discovering that the bill comes due in sirens, in shrapnel, and in sovereignty. Iran does not need to win a single battle to make its point. It only needs the world to keep asking one question: who benefits when the safety of the Gulf gets switched off? The world is watching, and so far, neither side is blinking. Subscribe to WLA for daily geopolitical analysis.